ready? You're good. Yes, sir.
Good.
Yep.
Okay, at this time, I want to call our regular monthly board meeting to order. And I'd like to thank everyone for coming tonight and the millions in attendance that are watching. If you're watching live stream, we appreciate it too. And at this time, would you please join me for a moment of silence? Thank you. This time, would you stand for the Pledge of Allegiance?
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, at this time, our superintendent, Danny, will share some comments.
Thank you, Mr. Cook, board members. Just want to share some comments for tonight's meeting. Today was day 45 of the 2020-2021 school year, and I want to thank our students, staff members, and parents for all of your help with this school year. It has been a very different school year. However, all three of these groups of people have been awesome in my book. Students, your efforts to adjust to this school year and the numerous new challenges have been nothing short of remarkable. Please know that I greatly appreciate all of your efforts to comply with the safety standards in place. Without your help, our school system would not have been able to provide face-to-face instruction during the past 45 days. Staff members, please know that I'm very proud of you. I know that you are exhausted, but please know that you have been champions in my book because you showed up, as you always do, to help students. I appreciate everything you've done to help our school system implement new safety standards, as well as new instructional plans and strategies for face-to-face instruction and remote instruction. Your efforts have been truly remarkable. Parents, I also want to thank you for your efforts as well. You're working at your own jobs and handling your regular parent duties. However, you also are serving as teachers to help your children at home. In addition, you continue to share important information with our school system's leaders in relation to COVID-19 issues about your children, and it is helping our school system. Please know that I greatly appreciate you. Without this information, we wouldn't have just completed day 45 of the 2020-2021 school year. As we move forward, our school system needs everyone's help. So please continue to wear cloth face coverings. Please continue to practice social distancing as much as possible, whether you're on our school site or away from school. Staff members and students, if you do not feel well, please do not come to your school's campus. Please continue to engage in best practices in terms of safety regarding COVID-19. Our county has to work together to slow down the spread of COVID-19 to prevent our schools from being affected. A lot of things have occurred during the past 45 days. These occurrences have led to many reports. However, a special report continues to develop, and it's one about teamwork. I've had a front row seat to the teamwork by our students, staff members, and parents. Please know that I'm very proud of all of you. Thank you, Mr. Cook. This concludes my comments.
Thank you, Dr. Ganey. At this time, I need a motion to approve September 21st, 2020 minutes.
So moved.
I have a second. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion carries. This time, we normally have our recognitions where we recognize students and staff members. And I hope one day we'll get back to that. That was always a special time when you see them come up front, their faces would light up. Even the staff's faces would light up. So we miss those days. I notice they do it now in-house, and they still get a plaque and all, but it's kind of sad, But anyway, maybe one day we'll get back to that. At this time, we have one person signed up for public comments, and her name is Rosalie Golly, I think it is. And we're ready for you.
Miss Goley, can you hear us okay?
No, she can hear us.
She's got a microphone.
Miss Goley, can you hear us?
I can't hear her. Let's try this.
Miss Goley, can you hear us okay?
Yes, I can. Thank you.
We can hear you as well. You may start.
All right, awesome. Thank you. Hi, my name is Miss Goley. I am a 6th year teacher within the district, and I watched Wednesday's board meeting, and I noticed a few questions were brought up regarding teachers' methods of remote learning, remote teaching, and it seemed to take up quite a bit of time. And it begged the question for me, in what ways are you as individuals, as members of the school board, being proactive in reaching out to teachers and staff in order to acquire accurate data regarding topics such as morale, potential staff turnover, methods used for remote teaching, etc.? Do you feel like you're being proactive in reaching out to teachers and staff, or do you feel like you're waiting for teachers and staff to come to you in order to collect data prior to board meetings?
Is that, okay, you asked us a question.
Yes, I did. Now, I understand that you do not have to answer because that's just the nature of the way this is. The reason I asked this question is because a couple comments were brought up that under remote learning, it seems that students are failing because teachers are not holding them accountable like they would the students who are in person. And it seems like that is a very open statement that is not entirely true. And this could be cleared up with reaching out to teachers and staff for, like I said, accurate data regarding how they're doing remote learning. I also feel like teachers would feel more respected if they felt that there was more of an active effort on the part of the school board to ask questions regarding things like morale and the potential for turnover. Because I know as teachers, in my experience in the 6 years of working in this district, I've only heard from one of you consistently. And
I'm
that
not
is
sure what
horrendous.
school you work at, but I'm gonna speak on that if I may. When I have a difficult decision, I have about 10 teachers, and sometimes they vary, that are kind of my go-to teachers. And they've actually been customers of mine. I've known them for a long time. Some of them's newer teachers, and there's some veteran teachers. But I consider them, I know there's plenty of teachers just as good as they are, but they are A1 teachers. One of those teachers has been Teacher of the Year. But even through this, I talked to those teachers and got their opinion and all, and never once did I think it was failing on the teacher's part. My understanding, it was really difficult when school started out, and I think it's better as we've gone along. So one teacher, she said, "My gosh, I cried the first 4 days, and it's getting better, a little bit better every day." And I'm not gonna say here lie, I think Campus probably made it difficult in elementary school. And you know, anything new, and hopefully as you move on it gets better, but I don't think anyone on this board doubts that we have good, hardworking teachers. Now, we may have disagreed on something the other night, but every teacher that I've talked to has given 100%. And what bothers those teachers, I do think, is some of the remote work at home where teachers are working hard and doing their job, and maybe some of the kids and some of the parents aren't helping them enough. I mean, I've heard that, and it's discouraging for some of those teachers. And then I've had teachers that are so excited when they were teaching the class face-to-face with those small numbers, how impressed they were with some of the kids were learning. But you know, I try to ask, you know, opinions and all, and I ask parents too, but I think it's important, you know, yes, we want to please parents and make them as happy as we can, but it's also our job to make sure our staff are comfortable, our staff is happy, because if you don't have a happy teacher, who loses? I think the kids suffer. So I don't know if that helps you or not, but I do ask teachers. And it's hard for me, you know, we would encourage board members not to go in schools right now with all this going on, because we don't let anybody else in, but. I don't know
And
if
who's
that-
this speaking? I can't quite see you.
I'm sorry, I'm scared to put. Is that what you asked?
I can't see you. I was wondering who was speaking.
Chairman, Gary Cook.
All right, thank you.
I don't know if that helps. Usually we don't answer, but I decided to answer.
Well, it had appeared to me that when there was so much confusion as to how how teachers are approaching remote learning, that could easily be cleared up with sending an email out to teachers saying, you know, how are you going about remote learning, doing surveys, you know, just gathering data from teachers, asking simple questions. It gave the impression that teachers' opinions were not being heard and that the basic day-to-day of school was not well known amongst everybody. That was the impression it gave me. If that's not the way it is, I apologize, but that's how it came across. So I felt the need to ask. And I'm happy to let somebody else who's online or in person ask their questions. So thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you for sharing your concerns.
Chairman Cook and my fellow board members, if it's okay with you, I'd like to speak for a few minutes. If it's okay with the rest of y'all. Okay. I had to prepare this because I want to make sure that everything I want to be spoken will be done. Good evening, everyone. I asked Chairman Cook and my fellow board members for a few minutes to speak tonight. My name is Todd Cutler. What I am about to say are my own personal thoughts and experiences, and I'm not speaking on behalf of my fellow board members or Dr. Gainey. After our previous meeting this past Wednesday night, I personally realized I needed to speak and apologize for my actions that night. Dr. Gainey, I apologize to you for the unprofessionalism I extended to you at our last meeting. I was hard on you, and what you were sharing with us did not warrant my responses to you. Since March, you have been a champion for our school system under a difficult situation with minimal guidance from our educational groups and government in Raleigh. You have worked tirelessly to bring some semblance of providing school to our students, and I appreciate you for everything you have done. Our school system and communities are fortunate to have you as a superintendent. Again, I'm sorry for my actions towards you this past Wednesday night. In addition to Dr. Gainey, I would also like to extend my apologies to my fellow board members. I was wrong with the way I acted by not giving each of you the courtesy to your own personal decision. We have always extended an understanding that we will always, not always agree, but we still can be respectful. What I know by serving with each of you, we all have passion for trying to make the best decisions for our students, our employees, and our communities. Without doubt, we don't sit in these seats to gain recognition or a pat on the back, to read a like on Facebook, to use this position for some stepping stone of personal advancement. And we don't do it for votes either. And I surely don't do it for the $400, actually before taxes, that we receive monthly. We would much rather have any accolades be extended to our students and our school staffs. I know our hearts are in the right place, and just like our Randolph County School System slogan states, students first in all we do is taken serious by us all. When you hear all in that slogan, I mean all. And that's every employee that helps with the daily operation of the school system. No matter what your role is in our school system, you are valued and much appreciated. Again, I'm sorry for my actions towards you this past Wednesday night. In addition to Dr. Gainey and my fellow board members, I would also like to extend my apologies to all Randolph County School System employees, parents, and those streaming in attendance this past Wednesday night. I was wrong with behaving like I did. During adversity, people need leadership that makes decisions on research, and for me, I like conversations with our employees. But when you lash out based solely on emotions, you cannot lead effectively. I can honestly say without hesitation, I was not fully prepared to make an insightful decision for the first time during my 6 years on this school board. I accept full responsibility for not being prepared, and I'm sorry. In this current situation, our school board is trying to make perfect and right decisions in a gray environment. We cannot do that for everyone involved. We cannot control the COVID-19 virus, and changes are fluid and constant. I cannot guarantee to anyone listening tonight that we may have to do something different later. We just do not know how things will progress. It was humbling to have those conversations with our school employees daily since Wednesday night, even leading up to walking in this building tonight. I have had phone conversations, email exchanges, Google Meet and Zoom with administrators, teachers, parents, and community leaders. What looks good on paper does not necessarily transfer to the classroom or within our schools. What we are asking all our employees right now is not sustainable for each of them and our students. I remember growing up, and sometimes my dad would just come home from work and he would be irritable, and I could see it in his face. As a child, you think, what did I do to upset him? I would ask my mom, and she would reply that he was just tired. Just as Mr. Biggs brought up last meeting about about mental health for our students, the same, if not more, has been increasing steadily since March for our adults as well. What I also learned in these conversations is how much our employees are willing to do for our students. They were not complaining, but informing me of what actually transpires daily in our classrooms and schools, either face-to-face, remote, or both. We had real and honest conversations about teaching and having school under the current climate of COVID-19. I was glad to have reached out and had these conversations, and I've learned even more how fortunate Randolph County School System is to have the employees that we have. I want everyone to know, thank you from the bottom of my heart for all that you do for our kids. In closing, this goes out to everybody else. I want you to be as patient as you can as we continue to operate schools under these conditions. I ask that you be flexible and supportive. Please know that we will continue to monitor and adjust accordingly if needed. I ask each of you to pray daily for our school system, as well as Asheboro City Schools, Peoria Charter Academies, and Randolph Community College. Thank you for the time each of you gave me tonight to speak. With all that said, Mr. Cook and my fellow board members, I ask that we amend tonight's meeting agenda and add as an action item, reopening schools discussion. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Todd. Spoke very well from the heart. It means a lot. Correct me if I'm wrong, he's asked to move discussion for reopening the plan, school opening plan to the action item on our agenda. So at this time, would I need a motion to adopt the modified agenda? Is that,
First, you need a motion to add that to the agenda and vote on that.
okay.
It requires a majority.
This is new to me, okay.
Yeah.
So,
Chairman Cook, I'd like to make a motion to add discussion of reopening schools under the action item as part of tonight's agenda.
okay, the motion is made. Do I have a second?
Second, Tracy Bowles.
All right. All those in favor, would you say aye?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Motion carries. So now am I good with the second?
Yes, now you need a motion to adopt the modified agenda.
Okay. At this time, I need a motion to adopt the modified agenda.
So moved.
I have a second.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We have added the reopening plan to the agenda. Okay. So now we will move on to the information items with Dr. Gaines.
Mr. Cook, before we do, can we get the exact, Mr. Cook, would you repeat the exact language so I know Beverly's trying to get it and I want to make sure I record it? It's discussion of reopening plan, what was that?
Reopening of schools discussion, was that the title on Wednesday night? I can't remember.
It doesn't matter. We
That
can-
doesn't matter.
So reopening of schools discussion.
Yes, as long as, under the action item.
Beverly, when you get it, let me know and we'll move forward. Okay. All right, Mr. Cutler and Chairman Cook, I want to let you know I did place that under, it'll be the third action item under my section, Superintendent's Board of Education section in action, if you're fine with that, okay? Beverly, if you'll put it in that section, I will work through that with the board, okay? Okay, for information items, I wanted to bring to you tonight some work done by staff. You see, we had added a regulation, 1725, 4035, 7236. This regulation is the complaint grievance process for Title IX sexual harassment. This is a new formal complaint grievance procedure. New Title IX standards came out of the federal government level back late summer, Elizabeth, maybe a little earlier than that.
Yeah, they went into effect in August.
In August, and so we were working through that, and in your policies tonight, there's a new policy, which is policy 1725, 4035, 7236. Basically, what we did in the policies, we pulled out, we have a bullying harassment policy, and we pulled the sexual harassment piece out and made a separate policy because we had to address that appropriately according to the Title IX regulations. So I bring that to you tonight as information, as you know, with regulations and with exhibits. When we get those, we post those and I bring this information. The second item, we revised the letter to parents for 5th grade puberty education lessons. And the reason why we had to revise that is in the past, the Alice Aycock Post Center had provided the lessons. They are not going to be doing that this year, so we revised not only we revised the parent letter and the consent form from the parents. So bring you those two items tonight as information on work we are continuing to do to continue to have a very strong board policy manual as we work through what's needed and what revisions are needed. So I'll bring that to you.
Thank you, Dr. Gaines.
Okay, this time Mr. Trotter is going to come in and present another information item.
Okay, good evening, board members. Tonight I bring to you a contract with Chericon Consultants that exceeds the threshold, and per policy 6420, the superintendent shall report to the board any contracts for contract amendments that exceed $100,000. And due to the special testing requirements for the construction progress that's underway now, it's necessary to contract with a vendor to provide such special material testing services. And the services agreement is in the amount of $272,400 and will be paid for funds set aside to cover such expenses in the construction project. I just point out a couple things within this agreement. There's 9 different tasks that are performed under the agreement. It's earthwork, engineering, which is review and reports, masonry inspections, structural steel, concrete, segmented walls, footings, any spray applications, as well as paving. So those are the 9 different tasks that fall within this contract with Chericon. I'll just bring that to you as an information item.
Thank you, Mark.
At this time, I need a motion to approve the consent items. Have a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. We'll move on now to the action items, and Dr. Danny.
Okay, board members, this time I want to share a couple items with you. First of all, the annual School Board Association conference that's typically held in Greensboro will be held remotely this year by virtual avenue. And because of the expenditure of our school systems, our overall expenditures, we have a eligibility for 4 voting delegates, and we need to select an alternate. So at this time, I'll open the floor up for you guys to let me know who you would like to submit, and Beverly and I will submit that tomorrow. Obviously, when they send out the form, they don't know when everybody's board meetings are, so we will get that in tomorrow. So we are eligible for 4 voting delegates, and Mr. Cook, we'll need a motion on that, and then it will include the names of the 4 and the alternate.
And it will be completely virtual, correct?
Yes, it will be. I think it's November 5 through 7, is that correct, Beverly?
Yes.
So what day, time, you'll find that out later probably?
Yes.
And it does cost $350 for this.
Yeah, the last virtual,
I'm gonna be honest with you guys.
we have to have,
$350 per
you do have to have your continuing ed, though.
Let me ask you this, I mean,
Well,
We need our continuing ed. Some of those classes, well, they count as our continuing ed.
right, it's virtual?
I know virtual, I did one
You
that
did great for watching that.
did the other day, and it was counted, it was information, and it was counted as continuing education.
Can I ask
The
you,
virtual
But
was
it's
counted
intended-
as
but it's intended
something.
continuing education?
Beverly, I think you do get credits for attending the conference, don't you?
Okay.
Yeah, when you go to information items there,
Remember, they have the opening session, they have, isn't there a legal, do you remember, I think there's a legal update time, and then there's the delegate assembly at the end, and that's when they're going through all the updates on a lot of the,
so, well, I mean, we're gonna have to get our educational hours regardless.
Yes.
I think you have 4 years.
Yeah, you got 4 years after you get there.
Yeah.
you know, we used to have someone, and I don't even know if they do it anymore, but it was a lot better than, actually, I got more out of it than going to some of those events. We'd had someone come here, and we'd all meet together, they would like a class. I know we used to have different, at one time, we was like, we were high up, you may remember, I don't remember exactly, but yeah, there it is on the wall, but I can't see it. But anyway, so it's $350 a person.
But can we, how does that compare to our other education if we are getting it in price?
well, Beverly, and I see the costs when they put different webinars and you sign up. Beverly, I can't even remember, I don't remember seeing a webinar less than about 300, do you?
So I was gonna think, they're pretty high.
They're pretty, the price is pretty
I always thought the voting things, though, it was kind of, I'm just going to give you my personal. being from Randolph County, we didn't fit in very well. I was like, I remember when Gary Mason was on the board, we were looking around, and they got these new things, you know, and they asked a question, and I think it was about 350 to 2, and Mason and myself were about the only two on that other level, but we won't go there. But is that something you think we need to spend that money on?
I will leave that to you guys. I mean, I value what we obviously get.
I don't want to sit in front of a virtual meeting all day. I mean, I don't get a whole lot at the voting session. I don't get a whole lot out of that, to be honest with you. I know we used to talk, I enjoyed my time instead of, we didn't always agree, but I guess, I know I used to make the statement, and I'm not trying to get out of this, but when we have our legislators here and we meet with them, I always got a lot more out of that and you know what? Used to, a lot of the things that we talk about with them would actually happen. So, I don't know, I mean,
I'll do it if y'all want to have
if you
representation.
guys want to do it, it's fine with me, I don't
If
have
y'all
a
want to have
problem.
at least somebody there from my school system, I'll do it.
Well, Dr. Gainey, you do plan to attend virtually, correct?
I plan to attend, yes.
That's what I was
And there-
thinking.
Whatever sessions are, it may not be every single day, but I plan to. I usually go at least one day.
If you want your hours, that's a good way to
I'll
go.
do it. I mean, I know, we went to, down to there one time, me and you went to one meet, yeah.
It's virtual, now I can't bring, I can't.
But it's
bring
virtual, but it's live, I mean, you can see it, and some of that information's real.
I'll do it.
I'll do it.
If that's-
I'll do it.
I'll do it.
Do it. I mean, it's interesting. I mean, the voting part's boring, but there's a lot more.
I mean, I don't mind doing it if you guys are good with it, I'll be around, I can.
Well, I'm just looking at the cost, because Beverly, I
That's
signed
what
up.
I was looking at, if you think we can save money we don't need for, I mean, I'm fine.
To be honest with you, don't sign me up for it, because I don't know what I'm doing out and out.
You said what now?
Don't sign me up for it.
Well, I was just thinking the other day, Beverly signed me up for a course the other day, and I think it was, what was it, $300 or $250?
Are you talking about the thing
I
recently?
mean, we don't have to have 4 delegates.
Yeah, it was pretty expensive though.
No, we're eligible, but we don't have to have.
Look, if let's
You
save,
know-
let's save money, if 2 people wanna go, and or 2 or 3, and you wanna come back and you could kind of tell us or whatever, I'm fine with that, I mean, I'm not into spending money.
Have I ever done one? I went to the.
The delegate thing?
I did it.
Yeah, we went last time.
I think I was a.
There was a voting delegate last
Yeah,
year.
the one thing I
Tracy was
would,
with us. Tracy went last year.
the one thing I would say is it is your organization that represents you, and we do, there's a lot of services that we, you know, that the organization helps us with, whether it be consultative conversations, and obviously we do pay for the board policy service, but even at what we pay with the board policy manual, I don't think if we had to do it outside of them, we would probably spend a lot more. We get a lot of legal support, you know, obviously from Jill and Elizabeth, but we get a lot of support from that staff there on the policies, and have helped us with our policy manual. And the big thing you gotta remember, Mr. Cook, you asked, the big thing you have to remember is, this is your organization. Now, I'm not a salesperson for School Board Association, but it is your organization.
But I think 3 is okay. 3 okay?
I'm fine with 3. If you were going, you know, and since it's virtual, if we don't, you know what, we can go with.
Well, the great thing about virtual is-
Well, I don't see, I'll sit back and, you know, you don't have to spend the money.
Well, the great thing about virtual is that you can rewatch them. You can rewatch the sessions and look at it, see it.
It also says here that the registration fee includes access to all recorded content for 30 days after the event.
I'll watch it with you and save money.
So you need a motion?
What I have, Mr. Cutler, Mr. Wolves, is I have Mr. Cutler, Mr. Biggs, and Ms. Farlow. Is that correct? Is that the 3 I heard?
That's fine.
So we won't be putting in an alternate in Beverly. We'll just send, if this motion carries.
Okay, I need a motion to approve that Brian Biggs, Todd Cutler, Sharon Farlow are the 3 voting delegates for the Randolph County Board of Education at the 51st Annual North Carolina School Board Association Conference in November. So moved. Have a second.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Congratulations.
Okay, board members, next thing I want to talk to you about is middle school athletics. I was very pleased with the work that was done last board meeting to give some direction to middle school athletics. I know that all of us worry about the different activities that students are losing access to because of this pandemic. But when Ashworth, Director of Student Services, County Athletic Directors in the back of the room, and when if I missed something in what I described, let me know. We went in and we approved schedule, and really what we want to talk about tonight and propose is moving middle school basketball. Middle school basketball, based on what you approved September 21, the season was going to run first day of practice November 4 to December 18. So we, in talking with Randolph County Public Health and with everything going on, we are concerned about basketball and the amount of contact that does occur in basketball versus some other sports. So we have 2 options, and then I will tell you which one that Ms. Ashworth and I like the best. We have one option of flipping volleyball and basketball. That's option 1. That will put basketball down January 4 through February 12, and it will bring volleyball up to November 4 through December 18. Now, that would work. The one thing you have now is you'd have some overlap of football and basketball. Anything we do tonight with basketball is going to cause an overlap of football and basketball, so let me say that. Here's my concern. As we continue to get closer to the start of high school athletics, and we get closer to the start of middle school athletics, I want to put us in the best position we can to maintain them for our kids. If you remember the options the plan you approved, we were going to do all sports, no tournaments. We reduced all sports seasons to 7 games, other than we left the football season totally intact. If we move basketball, we are going to overlap basketball with football somewhat. And but right now the question is, do we flip basketball and volleyball and put volleyball November 4 through December 18 where basketball was, and basketball January 4 through February 12th? Or do we leave volleyball where it is and just move basketball down at the same, we would put basketball January 4th through February 12th, and we would obviously, we move volleyball down a little bit to another sports season in February to March. So, the one option is completely flip, volleyball and basketball. Volleyball's for the winter break, basketball's after. They take each other's time slot. The other option is move basketball behind winter break and move volleyball down a little bit more in spring. What does that do? That prevents any middle school sports from starting before winter break. Now that doesn't sound good, but with what all's going on out there right now, you could start some seasons before winter break and have them interrupted severely if things do not slow down a little bit. So, just want your thoughts on it. So it's either flip volleyball before winter break and basketball take its spot after the winter break, or bring basketball after winter break, move volleyball down in the spring a little bit, and just not start any middle school sports until after winter break, and give a little bit more time for things to maybe clear up a little bit. We're obviously in what many people predicted, a second wave of this pandemic, or it seems that we are. So,
What does your staff think would work the best?
would prefer to move everything to after winter break. To be at a, football is February 1 through April 7, and it would not be changed. Okay.
What would basketball be then if you do it after?
Basketball will be January 4th through February 12th. And the volleyball move would put volleyball, there'll be there'll be volleyball and football going on at the same time. Would move that option to move volleyball down some, Mr. Cutler?
Yeah, what would be that day if you moved it down, do you know?
Volleyball will be February 15th through March 25. Football will be February 1 through April 7.
If we start after winter break.
That would get everything, that's the option, that puts everything after winter break and gives us a little bit more time, because here's what's getting ready to happen. Number one, we don't have a lot of support with what's going on to play basketball before winter break. We don't have support for that because it is a lot of contact. So basketball is not going to be recommended. We're recommended to get that after winter break. What I worry about is even if we move volleyball up and something, we have exposure issue, whatever, we might be interfering a lot with the season for those athletes as well. So it would make the spring very busy, but it would do our best job of protecting everybody's sports season.
How about softball?
Softball, Mr. Cutler, is April 19th through May 20, and that's not changing. The sports that would not change, either option, football's not changing, soccer's not changing, baseball, wrestling, softball. Remember, we moved wrestling way down to the end, April 19th to May 20, aligned with softball, because we wouldn't be able to do wrestling right now. That was in the, so,
And give me the baseball and soccer dates again.
baseball and soccer are both March 22 through April 29, both of them. They have not changed. Football, February 1 through April 7, it would not change.
Do we play any schools that, like, are not in school face to face? Probably not in middle school.
That's going to be a decision, I think it'll be a school system by school system decision. Are you going to let children that are remote play? I'm inclined to say yes. We have said yes, but I can't control what the other systems will or will not do. With middle school, we're only tied to one system, which is our community partners in Nashville City Schools. So I have not heard anything that says they're not going to participate, but I don't want to speak for Dr. Woody and his staff. If they don't, obviously, we have 6 schools, and we'll schedule accordingly.
I do wonder, and this is for another day, but I do wonder down the road, like when we get into high school or something, if a system that's actually not in school, could run into that if those kids, like Gifford County, would they play sports and the kids not at all? I don't know how that works.
I have not heard that. I think I heard the Grimsley football coach talking the other night about they've now established a date for starting workouts. I heard him interviewed the other.
They announced today that they were supposed to start back to school, and they announced today that they're not going to start back to school. Am I correct?
That's what I've heard.
That's what I heard.
Dr. Gaines, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
The start date for football is February what?
February 1.
Okay.
It would run to April 7.
How many games of basketball, football going around?
Okay, we cut every schedule was cut back to 7 games from 14. We left football intact, and I'm glad you asked that question. Because one of the things Ms. Ashworth and I talked about is, letting the schools work this out, whether they want, because here's what you have with football. Somebody's going to overlap football. And for all the sports, but football, 3 days of practice and you can be a participant in a game at middle school level. Football takes 8 days. So if we have overlap, some of these sports season children finishing 1 are going to miss some football games as they're football players, but I'm fine with letting the middle school ADs work out, maybe reducing their game schedule from, and I'm not saying they have to, but if they wanted to lessen that overlap, maybe reduce it to a 4 or 5 game season
Yeah.
or something.
So with the last proposed schedule, there was one football game that was on Wednesday after spring break. So we had already talked about potentially reducing it to 6 games so that we didn't have the layover for spring break. So, Mr. Cutler, you were given the end date of April 7, but if we don't play the game immediately after spring break, it would have ended on the 26th.
March 26th.
Yes.
And I would-
And then for
We'll
your,
up to the ADs, right? Kind
I
of.
would like to, go ahead. Anyway.
and for basketball season, last game will be February the 11th. The first actual football game would be February the 16th, but due to the 8-day acclimation period that we have to have, they would end up missing 2 football games. If we consider playing on Tuesdays because of makeup, if we move that one game to Wednesday, they could potentially only miss 1 game. So that's a conversation we would need to
Yeah, we
have
can do
once we
that.
know if basketball is a conflict or not.
But
Yeah.
did we not mention something about if a game was canceled due to weather, they had to make it up in that week, or we're not?
That week or nothing, yes, in that week or not, yes. We're not gonna get into other weeks, because
What
it's
we
gonna
consider, we talked about, did we mention Saturday, did we mention Saturdays? I mean,
We never ruled out Saturdays.
Saturday, yeah.
Yeah, Saturdays are an option, but I think Mr. Burgess is the one that mentioned, could we try football on Tuesday instead of Wednesday? That way that give us some backup. We also have to remember that high school sports are playing during that time span for football, and it's hard to get officials on Thursday and Friday because of JV and varsity football
Yeah,
games. So
one
if
of
we
our
scheduled on Tuesdays, we got a backup plan a little bit more.
Now, there is, just, and I have spoke to a couple, athletics is a thing that I really enjoy. Did speak to a lot of officials due to the COVID. A lot of officials did not participate this year in high school athletics. And I've actually spoken to a lot of them. They would love to take on your middle school athletics. They did not, they still kept their certification, but they're not participating re-up in high school athletics. So maybe reach out to some of those guys. I'll give you some names.
Okay, that'd be
And
great.
they'd be glad to book it and do it, to give it a little flexibility, because if one day is gonna help us, a kid not miss 2 games, just miss 1 game, that's big.
Right.
We need to move it.
Ms. Ashworth,
Yes.
when you said that on the current schedule, if you push back that first football game to the Wednesday, then you potentially only miss 1 game from football, for a basketball player playing football. But that is with the 8-day acclimation, so if you only did a 3 or 4 day, you would not miss any, is that correct?
Is there any way of doing that?
We
Shorten the
can.
application?
We can't, we have to have the 8-day.
Okay.
That's a
What were you
requirement.
saying you were reducing to 4 or 5 days? then?
No, I said 3 for the other sports, I'm sorry, I wasn't. The other sports require a 3-day acclimation period, Mr. Burgess. Football's the one that requires 8. There's your problem. There's the problem with the overlap.
Okay. And there's not any other sport that you could do, if you didn't want to do basketball before Christmas, sorry, winter break, you want to do, couldn't do that, is there not another sport you can put there instead, or is
You
it?
thinking about the overlap with athletes, because a lot of these basketball players play football.
I think it's a concern, you try to get, especially in middle school, because sometimes it is tough building sport, teams.
Yeah, they overlap.
So you have, so you're going to force some players possibly to make a decision of which, choose
We don't
one
want that.
sport over another. I think,
What about, and I'm throwing this out here, and I think Mr. Burgess threw it out here last night, I'm not sure. We did talk about playing on Saturday, you said as an option. Would it be an option that we would extend, or in special circumstances, where they could potentially have practice on Saturday, because that would give them another day of getting acclimated? You know, voluntary, obviously, you gotta make it voluntary, like high schools do with basketball, whatever. But, do we do that? We could, maybe, just a voluntary, I mean, if they don't wanna do it, we understand, but, you know, if you got that basketball player that needs that extra day, he could voluntarily, they could have something on Saturday, and most coaches would, you would do it, you were a coach, you would show up on Saturday, let a kid catch up, because you want them to get, if that's something y'all wouldn't oppose to, I mean, Ms. Ashworth, was that something, a voluntary? I mean, just to get another day.
Yeah, that's fine. Mr. Burgess, and you asked about moving, we moved volleyball just to kind of we could put volleyball up front, but when I look back, the schedule that we approved had things paired like baseball and soccer together. Trying to get, we had to find a spot for softball as well. We want to make sure we didn't lose after the fall. And wrestling, we just had to get our way down to the end because there's no way we can do it right now. I don't know that we gained, we had the volleyball going before the break, winter break, just to get some of the congestion out of there. But really volleyball being moved at the same time of football works well too if you leave it in the spring. So I guess what I'm saying is I don't see anything that really helps us moving before the break. And one of the things that grabs my attention about moving everything after winter break is where we are right now with everything going on. You know, last thing I want us to do is have a season and 3/4 of the team can't participate and we start missing a lot of games.
And I agree with you about moving it back. I just think, football and all sports, wrestling, football, all those guys, that's just their thing, so keeping that season as long as possible. I mean, that's what they do.
Which work,
Team sport, that's what they do. It's not an individual thing, so keeping that as long as possible, I think is great. And giving that Saturday, I mean, will you mention that to the ADs?
yeah.
That option? Doing
Mr.
that?
Burgess, the other thing I did look at was softball, baseball, soccer in November because those are also lower impact. The
Yeah.
problem is we don't have lights, so lighting is not our friend at this time, and then it's starting to get cold. So we couldn't get a full game in if we tried to do baseball or softball at this point outside.
Okay, all right. Is there anything about, as far as, like especially with football, that you, for those 8 days, those 8 acclimation days, that you can count any days from another sport?
No. It's with football. It gotta be tied into the sport.
Could we look at this? I know, Chris, you're thinking along the lines I am. That first game, if we looked at that, and I know you said officials are going to be tight. But what if we had the first game on like a Thursday or Friday? And I know it's going to conflict with high school football, just one game, and putting that off where they could possibly get all their 8 days before that first game. Could they do that? It'd be one game conflicting, and if we could get the officials for one game, because a lot of officials love middle school football. It's quick, they jump on. I mean, do you think you could do one game in the scheduling, put it off, and then?
If we put it off, it would put it after spring break, which is then going to impact baseball and soccer. So we could put that one game off, but putting that one game off would be the conversation is we don't schedule that and we lower the number of games in our season from 7 to 5.
Okay.
I mean, you think you look at it like Mr. Ashworth said, I mean, if they miss a game, or you cut the schedule by 2 games. What would you do, whether miss 1 or miss 2? I mean, it's rob Peter to pay Paul any way you look at it. So,
I think the Saturday option, I think most athletes would take that Saturday option in a second. They're going to show up. They show up on Sunday if it's legal.
I think, but I think as far as for this board goes, I think that's something we give authority. I don't know if we even give authority, whatever. The athletic directors make that decision. We'll give them the schedule. If they want to play on Friday, Saturday, whatever, and deal with whatever they got to deal with for that, officials and everything else, and let them make that decision. Doesn't need to be our decision.
Because honestly, they might be able to play on a Friday afternoon and get it in for the varsity football
Yeah.
game.
Yeah.
And, I mean, I don't know, they may have, there's
Make
probably
them
some
doubleheader.
referees. Yeah, referees might do both, I do think, there is gonna be I know there's concern about availability of referees statewide, and I hope that will change if things can start getting better. But, and I'm not trying to put that, we have some wonderful referees around the state of North Carolina, and I just, we need to be respectful.
Before the COVID,
Well, we need to be sensitive to their concerns in relation to COVID-19 too, and so.
I mean, the biggest thing, if we can let the ADs and the coaches figure this out, we just gotta make sure they're all on the same page and they're all doing the same thing.
Yeah, if
If not, you'll come back later on, such and such did this, such and such did that, they got away with this, they got away with that. So they all gotta be on the same page.
So, Mr. Cook, I don't know where I heard early in this conversation, if you asked, what staff, maybe you asked it, I think, what staff, what is our preference? Our preference is to move everything after winter break. Take the option of moving basketball down into January, February, volleyball down into February, March. Same time football is, and preserving this a little bit more longer till we can get, we will allow, there will be one thing that will start before winter break, and that was already in place. We moved it a little bit back, but we would allow cheerleading to start December 7th because it won't take long before we're back and there's basketball, which they'll be very involved with. So we would allow cheerleading tryouts and practice to start December 7th because to my knowledge, and when I think you told me, we have not had anything with cheerleading either, tryouts or anything, correct?
Correct, and they're used to doing that at the end of the school year, so
Yes,
they're
so-
way behind.
So that would give them time to, we would allow them to go ahead and start December 7th, but that would be the only thing. And it wouldn't be associated with any games. It would just be them practicing. And we're, that's, we have workouts going on right now in small groups. So that would be my preference, Mr. Cook, would be what is option 2. Option 1 was flip basketball and volleyball, leave everything else alone. Option 2, move basketball after winter break, January, February, and move volleyball from January, February down to February, March.
So option 2 is what you're wanting.
We would prefer that because we are concerned about getting started here in the next few weeks. We're 2 weeks away from the start of basketball as it is, and basketball we know we can't do basketball with things like they are right now, based on the health advice and safety advice we've been given.
Okay. With that being said, I need a motion, I guess, for option 2, based on what the superintendent and his staff prefers for the middle school sports. Is that okay? Okay. Motion. Ellen. Is anybody?
Do we need to say what option 2 is as far as part of the motion?
No, we've got it enough on the minutes now, but let me restate it into the minutes of Beverly's. Option 2 is the one that moves basketball Beverly from November 4 to December 18, that time frame down to January 4, February 12, and option 2 also moves volleyball from January 4, February 12, now to February 15, March 25.
Okay. I made the motion. Do we have asking for the motion? You guys, don't we hanging?
I'll make a motion.
All right. Do we have a second?
Before we vote, I just want to ask one thing, just to make sure we're clear. What you're saying there, Dr. Gaines, they're really not a good option to do anything before winter break. Is that
I
correct?
worry about doing anything for winter break with what's going on right now, even though volleyball, we'd have support to do volleyball versus basketball as far as the safety issues. But I'm very concerned about trying to do anything, if we try to do anything for winter break, other than the workouts. I'm afraid we could lose the sports season and all this work we've all done to try to give everybody their opportunities, a group. The last board meeting, we were very clear as a group that we wanted to find a place for softball and football at middle school level versus just picking up the winter sports season and driving home. And I think option 2 is more aligned with that spirit in my mind of, I think we're going to have, I think the next week, we've got some weeks ahead of us that could interfere with volleyball being in the fall.
Does volleyball interfere with, overlap with any other female sports in the
No,
school?
it would overlap, it would overlap possibly 3 days with soccer,
Okay.
and the other overlap it would have would be football.
Right.
So you would have girls soccer, but it's girls, soccer starts March 22, and volleyball's latest possible date's March 25.
It overlaps with 2 practice days for soccer, no games at all. So they'd be able to walk out of volleyball, go to soccer practice, and not miss a soccer game.
I mean, like I say, I'll make the motion because I'll say the option, but the thing is, I just want people to realize, you know, as we move forward, you know, we might be revisiting this again in January, because who knows where we're gonna be in January, you know.
So you second it, Fred?
Yes, I'll second the motion.
All right, all those in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
And just to close this out, board members, we're not heard, and if you feel like you want to take a motion on this, or we just move forward, what I would like to say is, it went as normal with the athletic directors, but if one school drops their football season to 4 games, all drop. We don't have one middle school playing 4 football, one playing 5, because that's going to get, you know, they come with a gentleman's agreement there.
I think there needs to be a vote if one drops. I mean, I think that the majority rules. If we,
No, I'm saying-
I don't think we let one school drop.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. We'd have them all do the same, because, in
Y'all
football.
don't want to have a vote?
Brian's talking about the athletic directors voting.
Yeah, the athletic.
Not us voting, right.
Yeah.
And I'm just talking about if that needs to be a motion tonight, if you want it to be a motion, or you want us to,
I don't think we need a motion.
that's how I'd like to proceed, is I'd like to say to the athletic directors, the one sport that we're fine with some flexibility on is the football season, but whatever you decide, we're gonna let you play whatever nights you wanna play other than Sunday, but whatever you decide, you're all doing the same number of football games. They may say they wanna do 7, they may say they wanna do 6, but whatever, they gotta come together, okay?
Okay, so this is where we're gonna discuss the, reopening of schools again, correct? All right, I guess before we start, if we're gonna revisit this thing, I've had a few comments, and I'll just start out with it if I may. And also, when we get finished, I would like, I know you had a few things you were gonna add the other night. Do you mind doing that? Okay.
I would like to.
Okay, because I think we missed a few things that Dr. Gaines was gonna touch on. And, one of those things, and I'm gonna let you go, I'm not gonna put you on the spot. But, I know we had talked about Friday as being the remote day. Well, after some, hearing from some people, and I think, if we ever revisit this again, there was some, concerns, I think through parents. I talked to a guy today, he was really upset that we moved the day to Friday. Parents are already have daycare set up for Wednesday. They're used to that fact. And I think some parents had already worked with their employers, and they were used to that on Wednesday. And I think we'd already moved 3 of the 5 remote days required by the state to Wednesday to prevent 3 weeks from having additional remote days. I think there was something you said to me, Fred. You mentioned,
I just,
I was trying to think.
well, I mentioned that, even though I did say Friday, and to me, it doesn't matter as much as I want to make sure we had the teachers had that remote day to really work with remote kids. But also, the reality is, and somewhat sad reality is that there are a lot of elementary kids that are being looked after by middle school and high school siblings and neighbors and helped on that remote day. So by moving it to the remote day Friday, it does it could create, in some situations where the kid who was actually kind of helping take care of them, the high school, middle school student, is now a B-day student that day. So is in class, in physical class.
And I think it'd be less confusion too. I mean, we always talk about if everybody's on the same page. It would be easier if you had high school, I really hate high school and middle to be on Wednesday than the other on Friday. I think that's kind of. So with that being said, you have some things you'd like to add and discuss?
Yes, sir, Mr. Cook, board members. Let me just share a couple of things. I'll give you some updated data because all this started on Wednesday night with some concerns about cases. And I want to go back and remind you what I call a case. I look at a week of Saturday to Friday. That's when I provide you a summary of the week. And a positive is what I call a case, whether the positive affected the school as a positive student or a positive staff, or a positive student or staff that did not affect the school. And by that is the affect the school is the exposure. Let me get into some things that I want to talk about where we are. Yes, I have been concerned about a lot of things during the past 8.5 weeks. First and foremost is the recent increase in the number of cases. At the end of the week last week, on Friday, we had 103 positive cases associated with our school system. So that's up a couple since Wednesday night. What concerns me is that 66 of those cases have come since the week, or come in the last 5 weeks. 4 of the last 5 weeks have been double digits. The highest weeks have been the last 3, and they were the ones after you made the decision on September 21. You made a great decision on September 21. But as I heard Mr. Cutler tonight talking, and I'm not quoting you, Mr. Cutler, but you were talking about we're in a gray world, and there's not a perfect answer. And Ms. Troutman, our attorney, has talked to me many times about that, and counseled me many times, as have some of you. We've all probably talked about it at some point or another. So I can give you the stats. I can tell you right now that we've only had 21 student cases affect the school, and we've had 55 student cases not affect the school because they have been out more than 48 hours before their symptoms started, and then they turned up positive. But it could easily have been the other way. It could have been 55 affected schools, and 21 didn't. Just like I can tell you there's been 18 staff cases that affected the school, and 9 didn't, it could have easily been the other way. What I can tell you is that to date, there have been 31% of the cases have been, if you combine did and didn't affect, 31% of the cases that affected the schools, or 31 affected didn't affect, 31.58% were elementary, 44.74% were high school, and 23.68% were middle school. So let's go back to my concerns. Absolutely, I'm concerned. I've had emails like you have. My concerns are multiple faceted concerns. The increase in positive cases should concern anybody out there. However, I also agree that the people out there are concerned about our kids need to be in school. I get faced as superintendent with this dilemma. How long do you want to struggle with this, trying to keep them in school? How long do you want to struggle with this? Because this isn't easy for you, it isn't easy for me, it isn't easy for our teachers, our principals, and our parents. But when I think about the academics, the socialization, and the opportunities for our kids to grow, I'll struggle as long as it takes. I got an email the other night after I said whatever it takes. Well, that's how I was raised. Whatever it takes, we're going to do. If we get to a point we can't stay in school, then we'll get to that point, and we'll figure that out. But let's not forget that the reason everything has been an issue and will continue to be an issue is because of the kids. We're struggling with an issue because we know what's right for kids. And school is right for kids. So there is a concern. Concerned about the positive cases, but I'm concerned about not having these kids in school more than they are. The kids are out there right on the forefront of my mind every day, as are our staff. And then the third concern I'll mention to you is the amount of stress that our staffs endure. Our employees have been nothing less than champions for our students. Now, I talked to a group. Make no mistake, in my mind, they've been perfect. They've showed up every day on behalf of students, parents, and this community. That's perfect for me. Showing up, I talked to our principals about showing up. When you're in the ball game and a parent comes up, it's easy to tell the parent, make an appointment. It's harder to have that conversation right there when you really like to watch the ball game. But 9 times out of 10, showing up does your school so much more, helps your school so much more. Staff members, do not think for a second that you're not on my mind every day. You're working hard every day. I know it. You're working harder than you ever have. And that's not because you weren't working hard before. You've been handed a pandemic that came along on March 13, and none of us saw it coming. We thought we were going to be able to work with it, and on March 14th, it was here. So you're working harder and doing more than you ever have, and I know that. I'm fully aware of that. And what people don't realize, if you've never been a teacher, you've never been a principal working in a school in a support role, you really don't know what they're going through. Because it is one of the most fascinating, rewarding jobs, but in times it's one of the most difficult, and maybe the most difficult in America. So I want to just say a big thank you to all the parents, staff members, and students, because you've been awesome, no less than awesome in my book. So board members, here's what I will tell you. I'm going to continue to work with our staff, and one of the best teammates I have, and Ms. Susan Hayes, with Randolph County Public Health. And we're going to continue to make decisions that are based on everyone's safety, every day. I have some stories. I had one Friday night. I walked in my car, and I got a call about a positive case. And we started working. The principal and I did, and we ended at 9. But we're going to keep working. That if there's a question about whether a child has a fever, and it may be COVID, because they might have been exposed, we're going to do everything we can to make sure their parent knows, or any other symptom. I called the principal at 6:15 Friday night, and I was so proud because everything stopped. I don't know what he was doing at the point, everything stopped. Individual phone calls started happening. Y'all know we had one a couple weeks ago that individual calls went well past 10 o'clock. We made a commitment that before, if we could get every parent, we were. So I want to remind you that we will continue to work and have to remove students and staff from schools' campuses. We might take small groups of staff and students and put them on remote instruction for 14 days. We might take an entire classroom. We might remove an entire grade level of students and or staff members. Or we might have to put an entire school on 14 days remote. Thank you to the people at Trinity High School, Arlington College High School, Eastern Randolph High School, and today, Southwestern Randolph High School. Handle it like champions. Parents, our staff's tired and they're stressed. So I want you to know now that I will look even harder as we move through the months of the second quarter, months of late October, November, December, and January. We have holidays coming up. We have a lot of movement of people back and forth visiting. And I'm gonna look even harder at whether a school can stay open, fully open, based on the number of staff members that have to be removed because of a quarantine situation. So I want to forewarn everybody that I'm probably going to use this strategy more now than the first 8.5, 9 weeks of the school year. Our staff's stressed. Our staff's tired. Our kids are tired. Our parents are tired. But we don't have any choice but to keep driving forward. So, Mr. Cook, I told you Wednesday night, you asked me a question. So I'm going to tell you, I'm going to respond to you the same way. And I'm going to finish my answer. You asked me what I wanted, or what I thought we should do.
That's what I want to hear.
So, yes, I want the students in pre-K through 5 back on campus more. I do. We need them more than 2 days a week. And I will respect any parent's decision that wants to keep them 100% remote. And when they do come back, we will take them back in and we will take care of your kids. I'm not going to get into a parent in the middle of a parent's decision. But also, I probably didn't do the best job answering your question, the other night, Mr. Cook. Let's don't add days too quick. Let's don't get too far out there too quick. I'm not going to say we've been successful. What I want to say is thank you to everybody who's got behind this. I don't know, success has always been for someone else. I've always told somebody, I don't know how well I do what I do. That's for the public's decision. They're the evaluators, the board's evaluators. I want our students taken care of, I want our staff taken care of. And I want to give our staff enough time to figure out what some more days look like compared to 2 days. Because we've been told, recommended social distancing in classrooms and buses. We're going to do our best, but we got to give our staff time to figure it out. So here is my recommendation. Do not bring students in grades pre-K through 5 back for 5 days a week. It's too much, too early. I recommend one of 2 options. And I'll tell you my preference. We either stay with 2 days a week, as we are, or we go to 4 days per week and 1 remote day. And I'll tell you, had I finished that Wednesday night, I would have said the remote day needs to be Friday. It does not need to be Friday. The remote day needs to be Wednesday. It's funny, daycare. Parents already probably have some plans for Wednesday on daycare. They may have other days as well right now. Parents, their employers know Wednesday is the day that their children are in school, maybe other days too because of A Day, B Day. You mentioned the siblings. There's high school, middle school siblings right now that on Wednesdays are probably already taking care of their younger siblings. Moms and dads need to get back to work. I get it. We've already moved 3 of those 5 days, as you mentioned, to Wednesday to keep from having days with more remote, or weeks with more remote days. Family support plan in that recommendation to stay in place on Wednesdays. There are 17 elementary principals in this school system, and 1 with an elementary grade. There's a transportation director, a child nutrition director, and a power school director who have all been talked to. And every one of them says, if you go 4 days and one remote, we're ready October 26th. I told you I had a preference. We've got another game plan. Ms. Ashworth was in here today. She's been a tremendous teammate. We have got another game plan of how we're doing our contact tracing, because yes, numbers have risen. But numbers rising aren't a reason to not try to move forward, if we can safely. I'm not going to do anything that's going to jeopardize someone's safety. And I get somebody out there right now saying, well, you are. No, we've done what it's took so far, we'll keep doing it. We've got a plan in place. We've added, we've got a couple people helping us with contact tracing. We've added to our team. But my preference is, it's not, let's don't talk about it 4-1. Let's talk about it. We've had these little elementary guys for 2 days a week. Let's bring them back 4 days and see if we can make another run at this. Okay? And keep the parents consistent with Wednesday, and we'll work with parents. We'll get the campuses clear on Wednesday. Hopefully lessen some opportunity for exposure 1 day a week. We keep our high school, middle school kids going. Because you know what? Here's what I'm going to tell you. I'm not done. And y'all aren't either. We want those kids back too.
You know, Dr. Gainey, real quick, not to interrupt this quickly, but you know, I appreciate the hard work you guys have done on 2 days, and I know you're tired. I know some of the long days you've had, but I can't tell you how much I appreciate the fact that you want the kids back in school more. It would be easy right now. I mean, you know what? Sure, some parents may not be happy if we go with this, but you got to understand, we started with 2 days. We made it work. A lot of people thought we'd be out of school, closing schools probably 2 weeks after we started. I heard that. You guys won't last long. Well, you know what? We did a good job. Now, we probably would have been out if it wasn't for you and your team busting your butts. But you know what? You're willing to take a chance on 4 days. And that's 2 more days than they've had, which is great. But you know what? You could have easily sat here, and I guess I'm thinking what I heard today, and I'm not kicking another system, but you know what? Some systems are sitting at home, and I just heard today another system, they're not going back to school. So I do appreciate, we all know it's better to be in school, and I cannot imagine getting the word today as a parent that we're going to sit at home, we're not going back to school, what that's doing to those families. But I appreciate it. I mean, when you think about, when you say, well, 4 days, that's not enough, what if you sit at home with no days, like they just announced today in Guilford County? I appreciate you trying and doing the hard work.
Thank you.
And I want to just mention a couple other things. You know, it was just September 10, I believe, when I sent an email to the principals and I said, basically, the creative playbook is open. At that time, one of the things I talked about, I think it was September 10, was let's start looking at what A-Day and B-Day seats aren't being used. Can we use those seats for children? Well, we're not there now. We're not there. Maybe we've gone past that. And I want to say, you know, parents and students, staff, whatever's decided tonight, we need your help. We need to stay committed to getting everybody to school. And this is whether you're at school or away from school. You know, the middle school and high school students, we want them back too. You know, long gone have been the chorus concerts, the band concerts. You know, we talked about athletics. In the athletic world, the best ticket in the athletic world remains middle school and high school athletics. Saturday afternoon college football doesn't come close to Friday night high school football, nor does anything at the collegiate level match anything at the high school level. It's the place where everybody comes together and coaches mold leaders and athletes and character. We need that back. But we're not going to move forward and be able to stay moving forward until everybody commits and continues to stay connected to what we need. So please keep wearing the cloth face coverings. Please keep social distancing. And please keep thinking about, is not following safety standards a possible way of me not being in school next week and missing that ball game or that chorus concert? Yes, the 100 safety students are emailing me wanting to know when they can go back. I want them back. Mr. Boyles, we talked about that. I've got ROTC on my planner. We have got to keep pushing forward. So board members, I will tell you, you have my recommendation. Please do not give up what we have. But if we can move forward to 4 days and a remote day on Wednesday, I'll be one happy superintendent, and we'll come back in and we'll keep working at it. And if we wind up with 13 schools on remote for 14 days or 14, you know, we'll do whatever it takes.
Mr. Cook, Dr. Gainey, you know, this system you've had, I mean, through this whole progress with keeping up with the cases, what students need to be removed 14 days, what schools need to be totally remote 14 days. I mean, it's a great system. It's going to work whether you're in school 1 day a week, 2 days a week, 3 days a week, 4 days a week, 5 days a week. And I'm going to try this one more time. I'll make a motion that we meet the last week's amendment to go back 4 days with a remote day on Wednesdays for K through 5.
Pre-K through 5.
Pre-K through 5.
Effective on October 26th.
Be effective October 26th. Dr. Gainey said his staff said they would be ready.
They told me this weekend, I talked to them all, they said they are ready, and they all affirmed Wednesday.
Now, real quick question, EC, will they stay 5 or they stay, or they go to 4?
Yes, we will, the students that we brought back September 14, 5 days a week, we will continue on with that, with what, that group of
That's
students.
working okay on that staff, you think it's
It
not
is.
too
And
strong?
all of this is working. All of this is working as best it can because of the word that I mentioned in my opening comments tonight. There is unbelievable teamwork between the parents, the students, and the staff in the school system. We're getting the information we need. And if we can stick together, we can continue to make a run at this.
I mean, you know, going back 4 days a week, it's not saying that in 5 weeks, things is going so bad we have to drop back again. But, you know, we all heard from the parents. They want the kids back in school. We've heard from the teachers. They are wore out, and 5 days a week is just going to kill, you know, it's hard on all of them. I sat and talked to one for an hour and a half yesterday. I just talked to their spouse.
And I
And it's
appreciate
just being, it's hard on the teacher's whole family. We got to give them a little bit of air. And 4 days a week is giving them a little bit of air, not a whole lot.
I appreciate you making that recommendation too.
And I want to remind parents, staff will be coming to school on the remote day, and it is an instructional day. We're gonna keep working at it because, you know, I go back to, I don't think, and I talked to a teacher Saturday who's just a wonderful person. I don't think any of us, this is year 28 for me, I don't think I ever dreamed this would come, something like this would come our way. And we've had the 2-week snowstorm and all that. But yeah, snow won't bother us now. I just think we'll probably all walk right on in through the snow now. I don't think anybody, but maybe a couple. I got one that might, got a little boy at home, probably will still love snow days. But, you know, I go back to a lot of things. You can't come up with a perfect solution because there's not one here.
I mean, you know, between the people sitting on the board, Matthew's the only one that had sense and not rerun for election. I mean, because we're gonna be sitting here from a year from now, and we're still gonna be talking about COVID.
I don't doubt that a bit, so Tracy?
Can I just say one thing?
Yes, you can.
Please. I know, okay, so last week when we came in here, that I did talk to a lot of people. I talked to principals, I talked to parents, I talked to teachers. And the ones that I spoke with were excited about kids coming back, and they were ready. They had the plans in place and they were ready. Now, that being said, I know the numbers have gone up and continue to go up daily. And I do know from personal experience, because I have 2 grandchildren in school, both of my grandchildren have been sent home now in quarantine at different times for 2 different weeks. And I've seen what these schools have gone through with when teachers and students are sent home for quarantine. It's a scrambling match out there. And we all know, much to our dismay, that we just don't have that many assistants that we can pull to put in rooms. And we all know that there just are not enough subs out there to come in, which it gets really complicated. You know, if you're in quarantine, sometimes there's money for a sub, sometimes there's not. So we're just pulling these assistants, they're driving the buses, they're going in these quarantine rooms, they're watching the kids, they're just pulled to the max. And I really don't know, because I know some of these cases have been in some of the same schools, and I don't know how they've done it. I don't know how they've done it. And so I am willing to go along with the wishes of the superintendent and support teachers, the parents. It's all about the kids, and go with 4 days with 1 day remote. And I'm just excited to come back 4 days a week, and my grandson is thrilled. So anyway, I just wanted to speak my piece.
And, you know, what I'd say to you board members is I think 28 years, well, I don't know what would have happened in 28 years if it hadn't been for the kids. I think we owe it to our kids to continue to drive forward, because that's why these buildings are built. And I think at this time, this gives us a chance for our teachers to take a different approach maybe at the elementary level, and see if we can mold it into what we need to do for the other levels as we keep moving. Because let's don't forget, now I worked at the high school, middle school level, so none of this conversation excludes the great work going on there. There's tremendous work there, and they're dealing with other issues that elementary doesn't deal with. And a lot of their issues are being compounded because of the activities they use and help kids continue to develop. They're not there for their kids right now either. So we need to, you know, elementary and high school teachers and principals out there, we're going to continue looking at what we can do down the road as time moves forward with you too, because we know that you're working equally as hard. But, you know, I've seen so many little kids out in the community, and you know how much they're missing school. You can tell it by the waves, you can tell it by the hellos, and you can tell it when they seek you out, when they see you somewhere, and I'm not even their principal, and I'm not their teacher, so I can't imagine how much they're missing their principals and teachers. Because this is what it's about. It's about them, it always will be about them, and we've got to do something to get our teachers some help so they can continue to do the great work they do with kids.
Sharon, I appreciate you mentioned, I know we talk a lot about the teachers and all, but those assistants that are getting up early in the morning, like 5:30, whatever, maybe earlier, driving a bus and then going to the class, and they're already short on assistants, and they're shuffling.
Remember that people are sick. They
Right.
might not have COVID, they're sick.
Yes, and they're shuffling around from one room to another room, to a sick room, to a COVID room, and they're really working hard, but we don't want to slight them either. They probably need a little break too. A day to breathe, if you will.
Fred Burgess, I second the motion.
Okay, so Tracy made the motion, Fred is second. All those in favor, would you raise your hand? those against, raise your hand. Motion carries 6-1. Thank you. Okay, Ms. Waddell.
Good evening, board members. Tonight I have 2 action items for you. The first one I bring to you is the 4 school improvement plans for the low-performing schools. Those schools are Franklinville Elementary, Liberty Elementary, Southeastern Randolph Middle School, and Uwari 612. Those schools were designated low-performing in 2018-19. And based on the status of us not having assessment data, and will not have assessment data until the 2021 school year, those schools will remain in low-performing status. You have in your packet of information all of the low-performing school improvement plans for your review. After tonight, each one of these plans will be posted on the website for 30 days for comments, and then at the November 2020 board meeting, we'll bring them back for final approval. Are there any questions?
Did, Ms. Waddell, these plans change much from last year since they didn't have a full year to implement them?
Mr. Bowles, what I can tell you is that every year we look at the school improvement plans and we make modifications and adjustments. Those things that they were able to mark as complete, they did. Each of the plans has 4 basic components to it, and that is to look at their data to determine what instruction is needed in their schools to help them move from low-performing status. One of the other things that they look at is the MTSS system, the multi-tiered system of support. That's in their plans. How we look to improve the conditions for at-risk students and for students who excel. And the other thing that's in their plan, of all plans, whether they're low-performing or the other plans in our school, is professional development. So those components exist in the plans with additions specific to their particular schools. So as you read through those, if you have questions, please don't hesitate to ask me.
Ms. Waddell, are we this year, or due to the situation we're in now, are we going to implement the same standards this coming year to assess our schools, and are they going to assess our grades and our situation?
At this point,
That's what I was looking for the state, what kind of guidance the state was going to give based on kids that are remote, and, you know, it's like the teacher said earlier, we didn't speak about it, but regardless, teachers can teach their tails off, and it's not the same, and some kind of kids are struggling some, because they need that face-to-face, and that's no fault of anybody's, but they're trying, and I know some of the top students, and I talk to them, and they're struggling with, you know, when you're doing AP calculus at home, it's hard, you know, and so I didn't know if the state was what they're going to do, they're going to step in, or...
the guidance the state has given us at this point, Mr. Biggs, is that they will grade as they have graded in the past, and we will have assessments as we have been given in the past.
No curve at this point, nothing.
Sir.
Okay.
We've been told that loud and clear from the
Okay.
federal government too, but, you know, obviously people are concerned.
Yeah.
There is a lot of concern, and it's not that we just know that what we're dealing with. But
Yeah, we're just doing, I just want, I'm glad you said it, because, you know, I think there needs to be clarity, because in certain situations, I think people think that the state's going to pick it up, and if they're not, you know, they didn't know, we're not looking for any kind of help, you're on your own.
Well, I think we're talking about 2 different things.
Yeah.
I think we're talking about grading of students and assessing them in schools at the end. Number one,
For the
the
assessments.
grading process is what we do it
prior to March.
Yeah, talk about that.
Okay, we've been very clear, the principals have. What we also have been told by the federal government is, and from the state level, that the EOGs, EOCs and all that will come forward as planned this spring. Now, is there a lot of debate about that? Are there a lot of questions about that? Yes. Do I believe our teachers will do everything they can to have our children ready?
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely. That's all we can ask for at this point.
Do you know when a decision like that would be discussed, if something would come up? Just a
I
ball.
would guess that you won't have much more discussion about it till probably into the new year. My instinct tells me that it may be effective, the discussion, based on how long this pandemic continues.
Yeah, and I was just thinking our grading correlates with EOGs.
But, you know, all we can bank on now is our students are gonna do the best they can, our staff's gonna do the best they can, our parents are gonna support them, and we'll do the best we can to prepare them, so.
Thank you.
Chairman Cook, I'd like to make a motion.
Oh, we don't, I'm sorry.
This is an action item?
No, yeah, but this would not need a motion, because in closed session, Marty will present the four safety plans.
okay,
We'll
I'm
do
sorry.
the motion at the end, I'm sorry.
Okay.
I'm sorry, Mr. Cook, I should have pointed that out. Sorry, Mr. Cutler, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Okay, I see it now, I missed it.
Yes. When we come back out of closed session tonight.
I saw a motion, and I was.
Okay, all right.
The next action item that I have for you tonight is the Archdale Elementary class size issue. And I know that Dr. Gainey talked with you earlier during the night about class size. So I bring this action item before you tonight. The LEA class size average shall be met from the first instructional day through the entire school year. LEAs are not eligible for waivers for class size requirements. So we have a class size issue that is being resolved at Archdale Elementary School.
And board members, I want to just take a moment and say a big thank you to Andrea and Beth Davis, because as Kathy just said, we're in the process of resolving. But as Beth Davis watches state policy, it's going to take us a couple more days to get it resolved. And we felt like the right thing to do was to make you aware of it now. We have full confidence it's going to be resolved. Paul LaPlante, the principal, is working at it now. And so we just felt like this is the way when we read state policy, this is compliance with it, bringing it now. We just passed the 40th thing, so let's bring it to you and make you aware of it. The plan is in place, it's just a matter of implementing it, and they're working that now with staff.
Is it too many, too little, or?
Too many, it's 3 kids. So let me make sure you understand one thing that I mentioned today. So right now, the class size is 1 to 18 for all four K through 3 grade levels. We can have a class that is as high as 21. But when Beth does the average of all the first grade classes in our school system, it better come in under 18 for this year. Same thing with all the second grade. So you can't have too many outliers. Well, in this case, we have 3 sections with 22, which is above the little variance that we have. So really proud of the work that's done every year up to this point by HR and by Beth Davis and her staff to monitor this. These are the hard things that go on through the months of July and August when we're watching schools enrollment grow and decline.
So in order to meet the class size requirement, what you'll see in that last paragraph of your memo is that an additional teaching position has been allocated to the Archdale Elementary School. And Principal LaPlante is working to fill that position for her school. In addition to this, that teacher that they hire will allow for 3 kindergarten sections and 1 K1 section.
So actually, the position you're giving them, they can actually have 2 positions, is that correct?
Yeah, this one was driven by,
This one's numbers. So that would really help. Okay, and Thank you. Yes, sorry.
Thank you. Are there any questions?
Hey, I'll ask you this real quick before we go into closed session. When the schools are doing their rosters now, and for when we go back for 4 days, I know it's a 40th day or whatever, and I know some of those kids have been in the same class, and yeah, that's same teacher, and I know some of that probably have to change. Well, can you make sure that, and I know they will, but that they make it as minimal as possible? I mean, I think that's some kids, if you really, I think they'll work hard on that, but we do appreciate them working hard on that, because that's important for parents.
And there's Kathy and Nick Ray have been very involved in this, and I would say, what I know is that they're being counseled, if you're gonna make a change, make it minimal, because.
Yeah, I just want to put, I know they will, but I just think that's probably, I guess if parents are listening, I know that's probably a big thing on their mind right now.
Rest assured, Mr. Cook, we have looked at all 17 plans multiple times.
I know that. That's just one of those questions, that's one of those things you throw out there, and I know the answer to it, I'm just,
That's one thing about kids though, they'll go with the flow.
sometimes they go better than the parents.
I think the principals have done an excellent job in being creative and trying to not upset any more classes and students and teachers than they have to. So I think you will be pleased with the work that we've been able to accomplish.
I appreciate that.
Thank you.
The word on the street that I love it. They're more afraid of her than they are you. she gets the job done. She don't play. Thank you both, though.
We gotta
Oh, okay.
We may not be done, the motion don't matter, we gotta start
I may have messed everything up. Okay, we need a motion to approve the plan to address the class size issue at Archdale Elementary School.
So moved.
Have a second.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. There you're good.
I move that the Randolph County Board of Education will enter into closed session pursuant to North Carolina General Statute to preserve the attorney-client privilege to discuss confidential personnel matters protected by North Carolina General Statute and to discuss plans to protect school and public safety specifically provided in the state statute.
Okay, we have a motion to go into closed session. Have a second.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, we're in closed session. Okay, I need a motion to approve the certified personnel report.
So moved.
Have a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Need a motion to approve the classified personnel report.
So moved.
Have a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Well, Matthew, you help me out on this one.
I'll make a motion to approve the superintendent's recommended personnel actions.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, so that covers the administrative appointments too, isn't it?
Yes.
Yes, okay.
Brevity is good.
So I need a motion to approve the preliminary plans for school improvement plans for the 4 schools designated as low-performing schools.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, I think that's everything, right? So we need a motion to adjourn the meeting.
So moved.
Have a second? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you very much.